Good evening, people. Thank you for joining us today. We are back for our education series, and this time we are going to Taranaki. We are joined by the lovely Carol Allen from WITT. Now, WITT stands for Western Institute of Technology at Taranaki. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it is a government provider. It's been around for the longest time. And I'm really, really pleased that, Carol, that you could join us today. It's almost like you save the treasures for the last. So we've done a few series, and I think today's session is almost like a specialist session, isn't it? Because we are going to focus on two key areas. But before I get into that, Carol, can you please introduce yourself? Tell us about yourself. I know that you've been with WIT for 18 years, which is incredible.
Yes, I'm a bit of a dinosaur in the industry. I have been there for a very long time, but it's wonderful to be working with you, Aruma, and with AIMS. So thank you for inviting me to the session this evening in New Zealand, this evening time. And I'm delighted to be able to take part and to help students with some of the questions they might have, and to tell you a little bit more about WITT or WIT. We're a government-owned institute of technology, of course, located in Taranaki, about halfway between Auckland and Wellington. So it's still a great place to be, not too far away from the big cities, but far enough away to be a great place to come to study, a great lifestyle, very affordable, and a place that our students don't want to leave once they come. So
I'm going to get into those. So I think I'm glad that we started off on that foot, because one of the things that people are looking at when they are looking at either upskilling. So we've got quite a few different cohorts. So people that are within New Zealand that have got the visas pretty much at a dead end, and they are seriously considering upskilling or changing fields. Then you've got people that are offshore that are looking at New Zealand because we look so good on the world scale, and they are lining up for the Feb intakes. So there's a whole lot of people that are listening to us, but I specifically want to talk about, I know there's some October intakes, there's some Feb and January intakes, but I often advise people that if they are looking at building a career and they're looking at residence and you're looking at skilled migrant category, out of Auckland points are 30 points. And it's often a really good advice to start outside of Auckland with those courses. So can you and I think Taranaki I haven't actually traveled there, but I've driven past.
You must come. Gosh,
I know,
please.
definitely on my list. But
yeah.
I do need to ask you, so what sort of industries, because your programs are quite niche in the engineering space and in the nursing space. So can you just talk to us about what sort of industries are quite big in that area? And then we get into the courses as well.
Sure. Well, Taranaki is well known for being New Zealand's energy centre, energy province. So the New Zealand's oil and gas industry has been based in Taranaki. So that and agriculture have been our two big industries. So white gold and black gold we have been well known for. So those two have contributed to Taranaki's very good economy. We have the second highest GDP in New Zealand, and consequently very good infrastructure. So a lot of that wealth has flowed back into our economy. We have everything you would find in any big city: art gallery, museum, sports complexes, great coastal walkway, beautiful mountain. So it's certainly a great place to come. So particularly for students who want to study in areas of engineering, our hospitality sector is very strong. We have a lot of international companies, so business is a great choice. We have a district health board, who support us with placements for our nursing CAP students. So lots of great reasons to want to come to our region.
Brilliant. So I'm going to get into the courses, and I specifically want to talk about the engineering programs. I want to spend quite a bit of time in talking about the graduate diploma in the engineering highway space, which is a one-year program. I want to touch on the engineering diplomas in mechanical and civil. And then I want to spend some time talking about the nursing courses, which is the bachelor's and the CAP courses. Before I get into the actual courses, I just want to understand for people that are listening, and people are asking these questions. So what is the employment support? So, I know firsthand, because we've done residence and work visas for lots of your graduates, that the employment opportunities are extremely high. The placement, the stats are fantastic. Can you just tell us what sort of help these students get from WITT for actually getting ready for these employment opportunities?
Sure. Yep. So support services are very, very important to us at WITT, and we have on campus, we have a careers advisor, and we have an industry placement coordinator. So the industry placement person, her name is Jo, and she helps the students with their placements when they go and do their research projects, their internships. And she runs a Facebook page for our students, listing all the employment that is available locally. So she helps them with part-time jobs. She helps them with CV writing, with interview skills. So we put a lot of effort into helping our students progress into employment. And being from an ITP, an Institute of Technology, that is a really big focus, is that our programs have to lead to employment. So very, very big for us.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons why I invited you and WITT to have a conversation with us, because I do know firsthand about the courses and placements. And I think that's what I want to really focus on today. So if we now start off with the flagship program that's offered by WITT, which is called the Graduate Diploma in Engineering Highways. I've kind of done some research. So we've done residence for people that have worked in design, construction, of the roads, and project management. They worked as engineering positions, whole raft of positions. There's lots and lots of questions. So this course is in the skill shortage list. It's in the long-term skill shortage list. So for people that are listening, and if you've got a bachelor's of engineering background from overseas, and Carol will tell us what sort of engineering, your spouse can actually come on a work visa, because this is one of the very few level 7 1-year courses that allows for a spouse to get an open work visa. Carol, can you just tell us what kind of students, because I know that your entry bar is quite high. You want to make sure that you get the right student that gets through. What kind of students are you looking at getting into this course?
Yeah. So first of all, I'll tell you a little bit about the program. So the New Zealand Institute of Highway Technology is the part of WITT, the part of WITT that delivers the program. So the Graduate Diploma in Engineering Highways is fully accredited by our government institute. So we award the qualification, but we have a specialist part of WITT called the New Zealand Institute of Highway Technology. Now, I have been talking about New Plymouth, but this program is also delivered in Hamilton. So we have a campus in Hamilton, just specializes in this particular program. This year we were hoping to start delivering it in New Plymouth as well, but with COVID, that's been put back on hold until next year. So April 2021 is when we plan to deliver this program in New Plymouth as well as in Hamilton. So we work very closely with the engineering or the roading engineering industry in New Zealand, with companies such as Fulton Hogan, Fletcher, Downer, Opus. So if you live in New Zealand, you'll be very aware of those companies because they're out on our roads. They're building the roads, they're repairing roads, and those are the kind of jobs that our graduates go into. So it has been very popular. Our students have a very high success rate of gaining employment. Some recent data told us that 85% of our graduates had jobs within about 6 months of graduating. So it's a program that has worked really, really well for us. So
from an immigration perspective, for people to know that the course actually gives you a 2-year open work visa because it's being delivered outside of Auckland. So instead of a 1 year, which is done in Auckland, it actually gives you a 2-year post-study work visa. So that's the first thing. And if you're able to secure a job in the first 6 months, and that's what the stats Carol is sharing with us, that means that you can actually apply for your residence pretty much straight away because you will have enough points. under the skilled migrant category. As people know that residence applications are taking a very long time to processing. So I think all of that picture working backwards, it proves that this is a really good place to start off from. So Carol, thank you for telling us that. I just want to know now, if we get into what kind of students, like what kind of engineering degrees do people need to get into the course?
Okay, so our program regulations say that students should have an engineering background or science, geology, that kind of background. So the engineering backgrounds that we're looking for ideally are civil and mechanical. So they certainly are the best profiles. We have taken some students from similar kind of backgrounds. So if you can prove that there is some relevance to structural engineering with infrastructure engineering, we'd certainly be happy to look at that kind of application. The technical mathematics is quite high level, so students do need to have good maths in their bachelor degree. So that's what we would be looking for. We want students to be successful, and students with that kind of profile we find have the best outcomes. So
in terms of maths or grades, are you looking for a specific grade, or are you looking for like a B+? Or is there an average, or is it case by case?
No, not particularly. I think as long as students have achieved maths in their bachelor degree and haven't had gaps or haven't had to redo maths in those areas, then they should be fine. They should be fine. We do put extra support in for students should they need it, but as long as the students have achieved mathematics in their bachelor degree, I'm sure that they would be okay. Yeah.
Okay. In terms of the course itself, how many modules is that course actually made of? How many papers are they actually doing? And is there an internship component? How is the course actually delivered?
Okay, there's 8 subjects within the program, so the students will be learning subjects such as wearing surface technology, drainage design, pavement design, contract management, some land surveying for engineers, traffic engineering. So those are the kind of subjects that the students will be learning. So very focused on highways, on roading. The kinds of jobs that our students go into, well, as I mentioned, those big construction companies, a lot of students go into jobs as technicians in those companies, as drafting engineers, surveyors, working as even in quality assurance in those areas. Some students have gone into jobs in district councils because, as you know, the councils in New Zealand do a lot of road maintenance within their regions. So there's a number of different areas that students can go into. And certainly at the moment with COVID, governments throughout the world are putting a lot of money into infrastructure development as a way of stimulating economies, as getting economies moving again so that people can have more employment. So roading is one of those areas that has seen billions of dollars being poured into roading developments, and New Zealand is certainly doing that at the moment. So
I've been writing blogs on the infrastructure projects that the government's pouring money in since Feb. So, we know that that's going to be the way to recovery. And I think one of the key messages that we've been telling people is that now is the time for international education to realign itself with where those skills are needed, because that's exactly where migrants and visa holders and international education can come in and supplement those skills that you can't normally find in New Zealand.
I think so, yes. And I also feel, when the borders open, because there's going to be such a lot of people wanting to come into New Zealand, the people with the skills that New Zealand needs are the ones who are going to come in first. So the engineers, the nurses, I think those are really good areas to be looking at.
Absolutely. So just before we move away from the highway engineering, just two quick questions. What I was meaning to ask in my previous question is, so when people are actually doing these 8 modules during the course, are they placed with the industry? Is it is there an industry component in the actual delivery of the course, or is it just once they're finished?
This program doesn't actually have an industry placement. So what often happens is the students will go out and view different projects that are taking place, but there is actually no internship or industry placement. So the students will do their surveying. So they'll be there will be some practical component when they learn those kind of skills, but the program doesn't actually have an internship. So there's just not time to embed that as well. I think, yeah. So that's.
I think just on that topic, I mean, we've got a live question here, and I'll just put that here in front of you. So this person's asking for this specific program that if they actually don't have the specific qualification or a science background, but they do have experience, can that be considered at all?
There is an avenue where students or where the program director can look at experience. So if the experience was related to highway engineering and you had a diploma in another area, or you had a bachelor degree in another area but had good maths, then yes, we would certainly look at it. I would have to see that application to make a real decision, but we're happy to have a look. No problem.
Yeah. I think the key to remember here for people that are listening is that if you try and get into this course with no real skills that you need to pass the course, then it's a setback for everybody involved. And you all want to, all parties involved want to make sure that we don't set you up to fail, because that's a loss for everybody. So it has to be the right people, because then they can see it through the end, and that those skills are going to show in the workplace as well. So I think what I'm hearing from Carol is it is really important to have those right skills and knowledge before you get into this course, because it is just 1 year, pretty full on, and it really gears you up to the big wide world straight after this. Brilliant. Carol, perfect, thank you. That now takes me quite nicely into the other engineering programs. So I know there's 2 diplomas, which are the New Zealand diplomas in engineering. 2 years, they are in mechanical and in civil.
Yes, correct.
What sort of students are you looking for these courses?
Okay, so we actually have 2 kind of streams that come into these programs. So we have our +2 students or 12th standard who have some maths in their background. Those kind of students are really, really good candidates. And we also have students who've maybe done 10th standard and then a diploma offshore, who can also come into the program and may be eligible for some credit for what they've previously done. So yeah, so both of those streams are perfectly suitable, and we would welcome applications from students with those profiles. Both very good programs. So the outcomes in terms of salaries are very good. Often you think a diploma is a lower level qualification, but these are not. These are quite professional qualifications where the students often go to work in offices as draftsmen, designers for the engineering industry, work with software and design. Actually, my son has done a diploma in mechanical. He's a piping designer for a large oil and gas company. So so lots of really good opportunities for students who graduate with this qualification.
Yeah. So for those of you that are
yeah. No,
for those of you that are listening, just what Carol's trying to say is with the ARP, because some of you may not be familiar with some of the terminology, I am going to get into the RPL or the cross-crediting or the, so what happens is if you are, say, for example, from India and you've got a 10th plus a 3-year diploma in mechanical, which is very often in India, it's quite common, we can actually enroll you into the program and request for cross-crediting for some of the papers that may be what you've done and maybe in here as well. Am I right, Carol? So that the duration of the course can reduce.
The duration would always have to be 2 years because we want to make sure the students are still eligible for a post-study work visa. but the workload would reduce slightly so that you're still full-time, but instead of 4 courses or 4 papers a semester, that could reduce to 3, so that the student is still full-time but gets a cost reduction in the fees.
Okay, oh, that's exactly what I was going to get to. So if the papers are reduced, the fees, tuition fees would be reflect accordingly, isn't it?
Yes. So we would do that on an individual application and have a look and see what the background is and whether the student was eligible for any credit for their prior studies. So yeah, so I think
for credits, while we're on that topic, for credits, does the last qualification have to be done in the last 2 or 3 or 4 years? Is there a minimum time frame that you look at? Or if someone's done their studies many years ago and was working since then, would that also be something that's considered for RPL process at all?
I think so. I think as long as they've got relevant knowledge and background, then their knowledge will be current. So brilliant. I think that's fine. Yeah.
Carol, can you just take us through what are the intakes for these courses? Because, the reason why I asked that specifically is because, a lot of people onshore have got the visas expiring by the 25th of September. A lot of these people, had the mechanical background and they came in to do business diplomas and they got off on the wrong foot. And so a lot of migrants are now sort of almost resetting their careers, pressing the reset button on their careers and going back into studying. So what are the intakes for the grad dip in highway engineering and those diplomas in mechanical and civil, so people know?
Sure. With the grad dip in highways, the next intake for that is actually November. So it is a little way away. For the diplomas in engineering, the next intake is July. So there is still opportunity for students to join the mid-year intake. But yes, I do understand that those visas, September expiry date, students will be, and work visa holders will be looking for some alternatives. So as you've said, this is a great opportunity to look. I did mention earlier that Taranaki has a very strong engineering focus. So Engineers New Zealand has a very strong membership in our region. Students who study these programs are eligible for a free membership to Engineers New Zealand. It's a really good way of getting to know engineers, professional engineers in the industry, and do some networking. So
that is fantastic.
Yeah, Taranaki is a great place to come for that kind of that kind of interaction.
I think that's a little point that you've told us, but I think that's a huge thing because I know any industry that you are in, the importance of being associated to the industry association is paramount. It helps you not just with your constant CPD, but also gets you to network with other individuals, know what's happening, know the industry. So I think that's fantastic. I'm definitely going to take that away as a key point when we talk about the course. So those of you that have got visas expiring, you're looking at resetting. Maybe the November intake is a good opportunity. It is quite a while ago, which means that we can make sure that you get those visas if you're onshore. If you're offshore, then you've got the next 2021 early intake.
Yes.
Okay.
For sure.
Now, before I get into the CAP and the nursing courses, there's some questions coming up, and I think I'll club the questions for the nursing courses when I get there. Can you just tell us, are there any scholarships or discounts or the sort that's available for students that are either coming back to education, so they've done a qualification in New Zealand previously and they're a returning student, or they're a new student? Pockets are pretty tight at this stage, obviously, as you can see. So I think that's something that we do get asked quite often.
Yes, very understandable in this current situation. People are very very motivated to find programs that are affordable and affordable living. So WITT have been really proactive in this area. So we have some scholarships for offshore students. Some of them we've been offering for all of 2020. So we have had a regional scholarship, which is $2,000 for students who come to study in Taranaki. As well as that, we have 4 weeks free accommodation. So that is specific to Taranaki. So that will extend, and that will still be available for the rest of 2020 and for the first semester of 2021.
So
for those
I need to
students,
hear that correctly, because so that's $5,000 scholarship.
no, that's $2,000. That one.
2,000.
So that's for
And
the
the 4 weeks.
offshore. Yes, 4 weeks free accommodation. So that is for students who are offshore considering coming to New Zealand. We also have a $5,000 scholarship, and that's for students based here in New Zealand. So this is for the people who are looking for new opportunities, whether you need to return to study. This is a $5,000 scholarship. So whether it's for studying, yeah, for study in 2020. So we are trying to help those local students who are looking for opportunities. So,
And is there a proposal to extend that for onshore students? I mean, we call them returning onshore students,
yeah,
but people that are onshore but would enroll early next year, would that still carry on?
At the moment, we're looking at 2020. There is a possibility it could extend, but at this stage, we are just targeting it for this year, for 2020.
And is that only for returning students, or is it just onshore? Because there's a lot of partners that had done business courses. The wives were nurses from India, and the wives have come here, and the wives are now actually going in for the bachelor's degrees. Would
So
those
this
people, they are first-time students, they would also be eligible for this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's for anyone in New Zealand looking to study at WITT for the first time. So,
Brilliant.
yeah. So that's, and for the July intake, we had a special intake for our first year Bachelor of Nursing program, where WIT decided to offer $7,000 or free for domestic students. So our chief executive said, let's extend this for international students. So there's a $7,000 scholarship for first year Bachelor of Nursing students wishing to start in July next month. So not a lot of time left, but we certainly have seen some good demand from this particular special. It's pretty
Wow,
good
that's fantastic.
offering.
That's
Yep.
pretty big. And, I mean,
Yep.
July is just around the corner. We've already applied for most of our visas. There's the last lot that's getting through now. But
Yep.
if you are ready with your documents and looking at a bachelor's of nursing, you need to contact us now to get you through this. So now I think that's brilliant news. Some really good information that I've made some bullet points as well. So let's now talk about the nursing courses, and I really want to just get into these courses. So the two courses that I want to talk about, the Bachelor's of Nursing, which you've started off already, and the Competency Assessment Program.
Sure.
Now, I want to start off with the CAP course, which is the Competence Assessment Program, because for those of you that are listening that are registered nurses overseas, you've got your CAP letter from the Nursing Council in New Zealand, and you are looking at getting a CAP offer, we can apply for an exemption for you to be able to travel here. So these people come into that exemption list, and we've in fact got a few people that have got those CAP offer letters, and we're now securing offer letters for them to come and join here in the October intake. Hopefully things and the quarantine facilities open up by then, which is a political agenda. But
yes.
You are in that list. So can you please talk to us about the CAP course? The fees, obviously, I don't think there'll be any scholarship, but you're more than welcome to tell us. And the intakes, please.
Okay. So, WIT offer the Competency Assessment Program, and this is a 9-week program for nurses who are registered in their home country and have some experience, but more importantly, they have to have a letter from Nursing Council saying that you're eligible to study a nursing competency program in New Zealand. So if you have that, you can apply to WIT for a place. We have an intake starting next month in July. So with nurses in this category now being allowed to enter New Zealand, this has certainly been quite popular. We have got quite a number of students coming for July who are currently in New Zealand. because I think we're one of the few providers still offering it this at the moment. It has been difficult to get places at hospitals, but WITT have managed to do that. So we do have a July intake. That's pretty full at the moment. The next one is the 31st of August. So that will be another intake. And then we will have another intake, I think in October.
In January.
Yeah,
so it's in October, and then you've got, okay.
Correct. So they are very much in demand. So there is a lot of students wishing to come in and study these programs. But in terms of outcomes, our students get great outcomes. Nursing is in skills shortage. It is in demand, and the median age for nurses in New Zealand is late 50s. So what it tells me is that a lot of nurses in New Zealand are heading for retirement. So we do need more people to come in and fill those gaps that are going to happen in the next few years. So it's a great time to be thinking about training to be a nurse.
And I think we've seen all of that through COVID and the lockdown period anyways, when we had all the retired people coming back into helping everyone because there weren't enough healthcare professionals in New Zealand. So absolutely, we need to rely on our fantastic migrants and bring the talent from overseas into our lovely country. So on the CAP course, I've got this next question for you. The question says, do you accept clubbing of IELTS or OET scores for the CAP program?
Yes, we do accept clubbing. Yes, we do. For CAP, not for Bachelor of Nursing, but we do accept clubbing for CAP. Yes.
Okay. All right. So those of you that are listening, that are looking at the CAP course, you need to let us know. There are some intakes coming up, and as you just hear, they fill up pretty quickly, so we can move quickly on these. And we are doing some exemptions for other clients, and we're hoping that they can be here as soon as as soon as the exemptions start going through. July is very ambitious for overseas people. It's not going to happen. So we're aiming for the October intake with the exemptions. But yeah, we've got people within New Zealand that are qualified overseas nurses that have got registration from overseas, and they are looking at the CAP program, and we're doing that as well. So that's great.
I have heard the visas have been quite quick. Some have had a turnaround in only a few days to get a visa for CAP, which is encouraging.
Yes, absolutely. Immigration is all hands on deck at this stage, and even the full fee-paying student visas are moving rather quickly. We haven't seen too much of a delay in there for July intake. So we are hoping that everybody that we're putting through will be able to get in for the July intake. Obviously, the backlogs sit in all the other areas where there's huge backlogs. Now, let's talk about the Bachelors of Nursing program. And so you've got the Bachelors of Nursing program, but what I really want to talk about is the option for them to be able to get a cross credit for prior knowledge and experience.
Yes.
Please talk to us how that works.
Okay, so WITT are very motivated to grow our numbers of nursing students. So we have put a lot of work into looking at cross credits or recognition of prior learning. So we can give up to 1 year's credit, and we've had a number of students start this year who went straight into year 2 of the program. So we're quite happy to look at applications from students who are looking for some recognition of their prior learning. So that's great. We'd love to see those applications.
What sort of profile does a student need to have to be able to qualify for that cross-crediting for up to a year? I understand it's case by case, but what kind of profiles would normally fit the bill?
Sometimes those India diploma holders would be good candidates. So students who've studied somewhere else and can show that what they've studied has an equivalence with our New Zealand program. So the program we teach in New Zealand does have a lot of practical component. So students do have a lot of clinical placements, and that helps the nurse develop that practical experience. So we know that a lot of offshore students will have done theory-based study, and we would be, that would have a lot of potential to line up with our program, I believe. So the program that we teach has a very good success rate. The last 3 years, we've had 100% success with our nurses gaining New Zealand state finals. So that is the process to get New Zealand registration. So pretty amazing. The national standard in New Zealand is, I think, in the mid-80s. So for WITT to have 100% success rate
is quite phenomenal. Absolutely. Yep. I think that's a big accolade. Absolutely.
Yeah, we're pretty proud of that.
That's brilliant. With nursing as well, because I know that there's, how long does the whole RPL process take? And the reason why I'm asking is that there are people within New Zealand that are now looking at, their spouses or the wives going back into education. And so if they are looking at sort of maybe the November intake, which I believe is the next intake, how quickly do they need to start acting admission and then the RPL? So how does that process pan out? If you can just advise us, please.
Yeah, we've got a very good nursing faculty who do the RPLs pretty quickly, but however, I think there's no, the sooner you can start that process, the better. So if you can send your documents to us for us to have a look at, then we can tell you what the likelihood of RPL is. So I think there would be a more formal process once you apply and go through the application process. But to get an idea of what the recognition of prior learning would be, send us your documents and we're happy to have a look. Yeah.
Brilliant. I've got this next question, which is sort of on that topic, which is around scholarships. I did tell you scholarships are always a very popular topic. So with someone like that, and I know you just said that the scholarship for 7,000 is specific to the July intake only. So I think that's probably what this person's assuming. So is that still applicable if they get a?
The 7,000 is fairly narrow, I guess. It is for first year students. For the July intake, we only have a year 1 intake. Year 2 is not starting until February 2021. So the 7,000 doesn't apply to those students, unfortunately. It's only for the year 1 in July.
So the general scholarship that you talked about, because I'm going to now pick on that question. So leave the 7,000 aside, but the general scholarship that you talked about, I can't remember the amount. But I mean, I think from my perspective, it's not so much a financial aid. It's also a real big motivator for students to be able to know that they've actually got, even if it's $1,000 or $2,000, that the fact that they've been awarded a scholarship is actually quite a big boost, I think. Yes. So if students apply for cross credits.
Yep. If they're onshore and they're coming to us, I don't think there's a year 2 intake in November. I'm pretty definite that it's not until 2021. So those students would be eligible for $2,000 regional scholarship. If there's students starting in November, then the $5,000 does apply if you're onshore. But for year 2, I could do some research on that and talk to my.
That's fine. And we can always communicate to our people via our channel. So, but that's really encouraging to know that there are options, and that WITT is thinking about these people that are genuinely wanting to get into these courses. So I think we've kind of talked about I've got another question before we close off these two industries, and that's sort of my question. So there's a lot of people that are in New Zealand that have done the level 5 and 6 in business. They came many years ago, some even like 10 years ago. They've been here, their lives are here. They've kind of just scrambled through all this while, and they have almost come to a dead end with their career. I mean, I'm meeting these clients almost every day because they just started off on the wrong foot. They just didn't know. And then it was just, a domino effect. A lot of these people are now looking at completely resetting their careers. And we're having conversations around, why don't we go in for a diploma in mechanical or do this? So if someone comes in with, so they've obviously done 12s from India, or they've got or if they're from South Africa, they don't have they've done schooling. With these people that are wanting to get into, say, the diploma from another background, the 2-year, is that an option? Is that the right profile to get into the diploma in mechanical or the civil?
I think if people have the maturity to be looking at what they've done and be willing to try a different career path, absolutely. We know those students will be motivated. They've
Absolutely.
already had a wrong choice. They don't want to repeat that. So they're very motivated students. So I think that experience, we can look at their experience and their background. So definitely they would have an opportunity in this program.
Okay, that's really encouraging because I get that question asked every day. A
Yes.
lot of these people that have been here, they want to get into trades, and trades is really not an international education space because the way it's been delivered through apprenticeships. And so then they would try and look at what other areas can they actually pursue a career, where
Sure.
can they actually learn their skills and actually get on to having a career rather than just kind of just scrambling around. So if these people, without having a previous mechanical or engineering or whatever background, can get into these level 5 and 6 courses, that's brilliant.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a great choice.
Brilliant. I think that sort of covers through all of my questions except one. I've saved one last question, and I'm going to ask you. I know that we actually pretty well on time. For people that are listening, if you have other questions, because I know that people will build up their questions once the video is done. We will come back and respond to all of those questions. So please keep leaving your questions in the comments, and one of our team members will respond to it. Carol, for people that are onshore and they're looking at studying, often to organize such a huge amount of funds and, because they can't really avail bank loans, there's not that option which they get when they're offshore. Funds are a bit tight. They are genuine, but it just takes them longer to get them. Is there an option for them to be able to pay the fees like for a whole year in 2 installments, in half and half?
Absolutely, absolutely. We do get asked this from time to time. We know that if students are offshore, it's very difficult to get a visa unless you pay for your whole year of fees. But if you're onshore, yes, that opportunity is there. You can pay by the semester. It just means the visa will be for a shorter period. You have to go through that process again, but it's no problem for us as a provider to provide an offer for one semester.
Okay, brilliant. Are there any options for people to get into English courses before they get into these mainstream programs? I know that the IELTS dates are now beginning to open up, but for some people that might have just a last minute thing because something happened to the visa or they just delayed with their application, sometimes getting through that English test is not an option. So is there an option for them to do the English course and then move through the mainstream program?
There certainly is. In fact, at the moment, we have New Zealand Certificate in English Language. We have level 3 and 4 delivered in New Plymouth. These are free for international students, no cost. So if the students want to come in July, you can join those programs for free.
How does that work, Carol? How does that, there's no free lunches in this world. So how does that work?
I know.
I need to get my head around this. So how does that work? So do they actually get an offer letter into, say, for example, the mechanical engineering program first and to start that? How does it work? How is it free?
No. Our chief executive decided that this would be a really good way to encourage people to come to Taranaki. If you're living in Auckland, like yourself, and you have never been to our beautiful region. So what better reason to come than to try out a one semester English language program for free. And so we started this actually in April. So that group of students are just about to finish. Quite a few of them are now decided they love Taranaki and are going to study further in the coming semester. So that is the goal, that students will love Taranaki and want to stay and pursue further studies.
I'm just blown away. Like, I'm actually speechless. I mean, hearing, because I've made a few points about what you've said, and I've already found like 5 hidden gems on what you've just told about that are so unique and just super incredible that we didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
That is, I mean, I think for everybody that is listening and that's probably looking at it, they would be super grateful if, you know, if they can get through that course. And
Yeah.
like I said, I have to come down and visit you in
Yeah.
person, so I will absolutely do that.
We look forward to
But
that. It'll be great.
thank you. But look, Carol, it's been fantastic having you with all of this vast information that you've had in the many, many, many years you've been in the international education industry. And I wouldn't like to compare you with a dinosaur because they became extinct. You've this treasure box of all of this information. And I think we're really pleased and privileged at Ames Global that you found the time to come and join us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So thank you very much for inviting me. And we look forward to helping your students. And if there's any questions, I look forward to being able to help you with the answers. So it's certainly been a challenging year, but we have certainly put our thinking caps on to try and find some ways to assist students achieve the outcomes that they're looking for. So we look forward to seeing more of you in Taranaki.
Absolutely. And I think more sessions where we will have lots more to discuss about the new courses and the online modes and a whole lot more. So we will get on to the next few sessions with you. Look, thank you very much. I think we've kind of just finished our time. We've kind of gone over time. So have a good night, everybody, and thank you for joining us.
Perfect. Good night.